And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about, so recently there was the decision made on Roe v. Wade, which the Supreme Court decided that the the decision on abortion shall fall on the state and local level, which, sorry, I had a burp, which I feel personally, considering what I've read and researched and the American government textbook that I've read, it had a specific chapter discussing and breaking down the original case of Roe v. Wade and all that stuff, which I can always look back on. But I feel like there's a big misconception on what the decision actually meant, in a sense. It's not so much taking away rights, it's actually giving more rights back to the people and to the states themselves. Because for the function of the Supreme Court and our government, and truly the beginning and how it's supposed to be, is that the first question that's always should be raised in any type of policy or issue on a federal level is, does the federal government actually have that authority to be able to make that decision or to do that or to enact that law? And the Supreme Court was the ones that were to be able to decide that. And so every type of law that came in, it was always the question of, does the federal government have the authority to do that? And if they don't, then it means that it falls to the state and the local level itself and to the people. Because the U.S., our country is designed as a separate dualist power to balance out the federal government and the state governments. The federal government is supposed to represent us on a national and an international level, help regulate commerce and trade between the states, as well as there are certain issues that have to be controlled and handled by on a national level by the federal government. But the textbook even said itself, and all the other books I said itself, the federal government doesn't even have the ability to do all this stuff and to be able to personally, on an individual level, help fix all these issues. They're just not capable. It's physically impossible. They have no true way to do that without the issue of severe overreach and corruption in power. And the only way that we could truly represent ourselves is on a state level, because the common conception that, oh, our vote doesn't matter when it comes to like voting for the president and all that stuff. That's even I kind of agree with that still. It's like on a federal level, it's almost like our vote doesn't matter and the people is always left unheard. But on a state level, on a state and a local level, that's where we can be heard because it's a more controlled environment. That's not this giant blanket that's wrapping over the entire country. It's now on a state to state level. So now what it means is what Supreme Court decided with the decision is that the federal government does not have the authority to tell us what to do with our bodies or to make any decisions on abortion. You know, it's the same thing like with the COVID vaccine. My body, my choice, and the government has no authority to tell me what to do or what to put into my body. It's the same thing here. It's the federal government does not have the right to tell me what to do or what not to do with my body, and that they do not have the authority to enact laws or rulings on abortion. That's objectively, of course. And I say this all objectively. I'm not inserting my opinion into this area because it's just too toxic of a subject. And there's also a lot of people I know personally who have strong feelings on it. And it's like a respect thing between us. But on an objective level, that's what the Supreme Court decided, that the federal government does not have that authority. So what that means is that the states now have that authority, because one of the amendments is in the Constitution is that if there is not if the power or the authority is not designated within the Constitution to the federal government, then it falls on the state and the local and to the people themselves to be able to make those decisions, those rulings and laws. And there's nowhere in the Constitution that that says that the federal government has the authority to tell us what to do with our bodies. Same with the COVID vaccine too. And so now, of course, there's a lot of states that have strong opinions against abortion, and you pro-life and everything. You have pro-choice and all that stuff, and it's a very conflicted thing. And now, with the purpose of bringing the power back to the local and state level, what that means is that, for example, I think with Arizona, it is more so against abortion, and it really limits a lot of bad things, or it limits the good parts of, like, I don't know, that's poor choice of words. It has a lot of bad limitations on women's rights within Arizona. So the way that we would fix that is that we would organize and petition on a state level by going to all the different cities, to the towns all across Arizona, and get votes, get signatures. Then you organize, you present these signatures to the state government, in which the state council as well will review it and everything. And you'd have like a certain amount, like 100,000 signatures, and you submit it to the state government and you petition. And if you're able to reverse that law, the laws on abortion, then we officially succeeded in that measure. And the laws in Arizona would flip to where it would be more open to pro-choice and allowing women more choices of what to do with their body and not restricting our rights. So that's essentially what we have to do. For every state out there, if the people in that state feels that the laws on abortion is unjust, then now that their voting power has become more strengthened, because they themselves can organize, petition, protest, and seek court ruling to reverse the laws or enact new laws to fix it. So yeah, we have that. And then another part I wanted to add it in, and again, this is all purely objective. I say it respectfully. And I also say as well, once again, the purpose of my podcast is to have honest, positive, and constructive conversation around real world issues. That's why I read the stuff that I do. And I am always 100% transparent and open to being proved wrong. At the end of the day, I am my own echo chamber. And until I am able to properly disperse and share this way of thinking or this knowledge or what I know with my peers, and then based off the feedback of that, only then will I be able to figure out what's right and what's wrong. If I say something bad on accident, or if it's like an opinion that people really don't like or a belief, if the people themselves does have a fair argument, then okay, yeah, I'm in the wrong, or I'm wrong. But if it's just the crowd being unfair or the people being unfair, and it's nothing wrong on my part, then that's how I have to disseminate and receive the information, interpret my way. But again, I want to be able to have positive, constructive conversations about issues like this, so that way we can find legitimate solutions to this. And so what I wanted to say in particular with this subject, which, let me take a drink of water, is that there's a term that I know called anarchic truth. Anarchic truth was coined by one of the very first female philosophers that existed during like ancient Greece, like Plato, Socrates era. I wish I could remember her name. I lost the book that I was reading on her about, but anarchic truth basically means that there is a potentially infinite number of truths for any given subject, topic, or thing in existence. So it's not just one specific thing that's true across the board and generalized. It could be multiple things. And so in this implication, and keep in mind as well, these infinite truths can also be conflicting. They're not all going to blend well, and it's a matter of finding balance between them. But in this situation, there's two infinite universal truths that I see based off like my research within the subject of abortion. The first truth is that no system, no government or existing entity has the authority to tell anybody what to do with their bodies. That is a universal truth. It is our choice what to do with our bodies, and no one should be able to make those decisions for us. The second universal truth as well, which I will point a reason why I point this out, is that technically the functions of our government on a both federal and state and local level, the way that it works is that when something is considered life, it immediately inherits not only human, natural, and God-given rights, but our constitutional rights as well. So once we are recognized as life, we inherit those rights. And the government and the state or the local level, they also are, their purpose of their function is to protect our way of life, or to help protect our lives, because that was the goal of creating this governance. And that's where these are two polar opposite universal truths that conflict. And what we see right now is a division growing, because the biggest issue that I see is that we don't have a common agreement on when it is considered life. I've been in several states. I've talked to several people. There are people who say that it's the moment of conception. It's when there's a heartbeat. it's after the first trimester. There's even people that you can even find online that doesn't believe that a baby is considered life until it's 9 months pregnant or until after birth, and then it's life. And no matter what, any law, any type of ruling on abortion is going to be inherently flawed and corrupted, and is going to have a negative impact on certain groups because it's based off of flawed information and a flawed understanding. Until we could come on not necessarily universal understanding, but we could come to like a societal understanding of when it is recognized life, only then can we make like truly fair and justifiable laws around the subject. Because you got to find the balance. What we're this tension, the toxicity, and the conflict within this, it's a result of these two universal truths just further dividing. The friction between them is getting worse and worse and worse, and it's creating a hellfire. The only way that we can stop the hellfire, the only way that we could fix the issue, is if we start finding a way to make these two conflicting truths get along, to find a balance. And the only way to find that balance is to have honest, productive, and positive conversation, to have debates, stuff like that. Like, even I would love, if the opportunity was presented itself, I would love to have a episode where I'm overseeing a debate between a pro-choicer and a pro-lifer, and just making sure that it is a fair, honest conversation, and that each sides are able to compromise in a way to find a solution for the greater good, in a sense. And that's the purpose of a two-party system. That was the original purpose of the creation between Democrats and Republicans, because only if one entity gets too much power, it's doomed for corruption and power abuse. Now, the two-party system, it's a balancing power. Just like the three branches of government, they balance each other and control and regulate each other. The two-party system does the same. In order for us to come together and find solutions for especially serious issues like this, we have to be able to compromise, which means that both sides have to make sacrifices in their arguments and with everything that they want in order to find a solution so we could cohesively live in better terms. And there's not so much conflict and need to hate and attack people. But again, it's all purely objective. I don't insert my opinion at all. That's just based off the research I've done and things I've learned. And like, I don't know if you guys can see it, but one of these books up here is on the Supreme Court. And the textbook that I have, it had an entire chapter dedicated to not only to the Supreme Court, but Roe v. Wade as well. And I'll probably more than likely too just like add a little video snippet of this showing me flipping through the pages, like all my highlights and everything that I put in it. Yeah, I want to emphasize, all I care about is honest, positive conversation. I have no interest nor need to harm or like negatively influence or manipulate people. This is just my observations, and in order for me to be able to rationalize and understand the difference between right and wrong, I have to properly disseminate this information with my peers, bounce off of it, and reflect on the justifications of why I should feel my way and why they should feel their way. And only then can we find a way to solve these things.